Okay, here we go. So we're going to talk about the new mobile app features this evening. And this is what we're going to cover tonight. Whoops, that went too far. We're going to talk a little bit about the key objectives of the mobile app, sort of from a global perspective, right? 1,000-mile-high view of what the company is trying to accomplish with the mobile app, at least from my point of view. We'll talk to you about how it works. We'll talk about things that prevent the optimal customer experience. And this is really where you can help us, right? We want to help you understand how to use the mobile app correctly, right? And there's ways that can be used that will make sure that it all flows just absolutely perfectly and that we will be able to meet the customer's expectations all of the time. And so if you can explain how to use this app to your members, to your associates, to the folks that are in your downlines and marketing groups, it would really, really help the overall effort. We're going to talk about incorrect uses of the mobile app, so ways that it is not helpful to use the app, and we may also talk a little bit about some future enhancements that you might expect to come. So the key objectives for the mobile app are to allow members to initiate requests for service really on their time. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible, make it as easy for them to request services from their provider law firm as possible. And so this really allows them to initiate a request for service basically any time of the day, any day of the week, whenever it pops into their mind, whenever they're thinking about it, you know, after they've put the kids to bed in the evening and they finally have the time to sit down, take a breath, you know, whatever it is, you know, so that allows them to do that outside of normal business hours. Another objective is to reduce the calls that have to happen between the provider law firm and the member, and to reduce phone tag. I mean, nobody likes phone tag. That's a real complaint that a lot of folks have whenever we can't get a hold of one another as quickly, you know, as we want. And so it's really intended to avoid phone tag, avoid being on hold while you're waiting to talk to a customer service representative, all of those types of things that can be a little bit of a friction experience for members whenever they're trying to access legal services. It's intended to connect members to an attorney in fewer steps. So, you know, if we can gather all of the information we need from the member by using the mobile app that we need to do the things that we have to do on our end, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, it should connect the attorney to the member faster so that the call that the members get back is from an attorney in the first instance. And the app also is integrated with some software that your provider law firms use to do the job that they do. So we manage the request for services that we have using this software. We take notes and we do lots of different things in the software that we have on our side of the computer world. And the app and that system are integrated so that whenever we're doing things with a member's request for services, you can see that those things are being done, you know, as well.
Well, it can't be too right if you're going to boil it.
And Noemi, you should be able to mute folks out if we're getting some background noise. So let's see here. I'm going to share my screen again.
Then it's too right.
And this is going to be Rebecca. Hopefully you can hear this.
Okay.
And Noemi, you tell me if you can't hear it for some reason, and we'll try to figure it out. Or Belinda, give me a thumbs up. But I'm going to go ahead and try to play this video. Hopefully it works.
Rebecca Armenta, Senior Product Manager.
Can you hear it?
For Legal
Yep.
Services here at LegalShield. Let's go ahead and get started so you can see what our new mobile app is going to bring our members. Let's sign in and authorize Face ID. We'll go to the home page where we can see a much more simplified experience for our members. There's two options on the home page: request a consult and to explore your features. From the home page, you can also access the ability to call the firm or manage your account. As we go back to the home screen, we'll dive into each of these features a little bit more. Request a consultation invites the member to request a consult for any legal matter they may have. The options they'll have to choose from are 15 areas of law. These encompass almost all legal matters that the member may have. However, if they're not sure, they can always say so. In this example, we'll go through consumer rights. I also get examples of consumer rights, and I'm able to read a description just to verify that I have chosen the correct one for my legal matter. As we continue, I'll be asked who is involved. I'll have the option to add a person or a business, in which case I'll add Best Buy for this example. As we continue, I'll be asked what happened. This is a max of 250 characters, as we don't want the member to feel overwhelmed like they have to include every detail of their matter. We just need a short description so that we ensure that the member is connected with the right lawyer. As we continue, I have the ability to take a photo. And when I upload that photo, I can describe my upload, or I can just upload the attachment. So we continue. At this point in the flow, previously, those questions were subject to which area of law I had chosen. From here on out, each question will be in every area of law, meaning I will get these questions no matter which area of law I choose from. I can choose as soon as possible, in which I'll be informed that I'll be called back within the next 4 business hours, or I can schedule a call. When I schedule a call, I'll have 3 windows to choose from: 8:30 to 11, 11 to 2, or 2 to 5:30. For this example, I'll choose 11 to 2. As we continue, I will see that it asks the best way to reach you. To ensure that I have the best contact methods for this particular service request, I'll be able to edit in line or leave the email and phone number that was already on file. As I continue, I'll be able to double check all of the information that I've entered to make sure it is correct. I'll also be able to go back in the flow if I need to change something. When I send the request, I will get a success message that also informs me I'll be receiving an email confirmation. And I say, sounds good. Also from the home screen, I can explore the features of my plan. This is all data-driven and will be personalized for the contract that I have. I'll be able to see descriptions of the features I have and also who's covered. If I would like to get into the details, I'll also be able to access the PDF contract on file. I hope you enjoyed this demo. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's go back to a little presentation here. Okay. All right, Noemi, can you check to see if you can mute some of these folks out?
Yeah, I can't do it when the presentation is up. I need you to put that down. So I
Okay,
can mute it.
go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Oh. Can you hear? Mike? Uh-oh, I think I muted you.
No, I'm good. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about how this app works. So I thought Rebecca's presentation was really good. She gives you a very good overview of all of the stuff that's in the app. So there's a ton of stuff in there. It has a lot of different functionality. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the process works on our end, because it really goes a lot beyond what exactly is just in the app. And, you know, just like anything, right? You know, if you can fly a kite, you can fly a kite badly, but if you practice, you can fly a kite really well. And so we want everybody to be able to learn how to fly this kite really, really well, so it works exactly how you hope that it will work. So understand that whenever that member hits, you know, submit their request for service, and they get a little success screen on their app, that creates what we refer to as an electronic intake or file in the software that the provider firm looks at. So that app is literally opening up a document for us to take a look at so that we can see all of the information that the member has sent to us using that app. And it's really the same electronic file or intake that our customer service representatives would create in the event a member is calling us to initiate a request for service. So they're really the same thing. Whether they're calling in to talk to a customer service rep or they're using the app to initiate a request for service, they both end up at the same place for all intents and purposes.
Hey, Mike, do you want to
Yeah.
share you're sharing your screen, but you're sharing it where we can see the next slide. You're not in presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Let me
Sorry.
figure that out. All right. So it's in presentation mode on mine. Let me try it again. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Great. Okay. So once your request for service is submitted via the app, somebody on our administrative staff reviews the information that the member has provided to ensure that we have all of the information that we need to connect the member with the attorney who is best suited to help the member with their legal matter. That's really kind of a key concept to remember. Now I'm trying to go to the next slide. Here we go. So here are the things that we have to do in order to connect that request for service with the best attorney to help that member. First, we have to do what we refer to as a conflict check. That's not maybe a phrase that everybody's familiar with, but it's important for you to understand what this is. So conflict checks are a big deal. We are required, every law firm in every state is required to avoid conflicts of interest. That's what really a conflict check refers to. But we're all required by the rules of professional conduct to avoid a conflict of interest. What that means is that we can't represent a client, and whenever we're talking to a member about a legal member, that is a limited scope form of representation. We can't represent a client whose interests are adverse to the interests of a former client of the firm. And so let's talk about some examples of conflicts. These examples would include assisting a member when we have previously assisted the opposing party and we had information about the case, okay? And so that might happen in a divorce case, or a property dispute where one member calls, or a landlord-tenant case where the landlord and the tenant are both members. And we've already talked to the landlord, and the landlord tells us all kinds of things about the dispute. And then a week later, the tenant calls us, and we already have all of this inside information. So that's a good example of that. Assisting two members whose interests oppose one another, so disputes between members are going to be problems. A dependent spouse calling on a matter in which the member spouse is an opposing party, right? So if you've got a husband who's the dependent on the membership and they're calling with a beef about their wife, right? And that's not that uncommon. That's going to be a conflict for us. Could be a member with a group plan about calling on a matter in which their employer is the opposing party. Now that's kind of a no benefits type situation, but that's similar to what we would call a conflict. But these are all the examples of types of things that we have to look at in order to make sure that we can do the work that the member has requested, okay? So let's assume we do the conflict check and everything is fine. If the member has sent us documents with the app-generated request for service, we review the documents that they send to us to make sure that they're complete. That it isn't a 10-page document missing pages 3 and 7, that it's legible, those types of things. Make sure that it's not too long, over the document review length, or it's a type of a document that the membership permits a document review to cover. So we take a look at those things. We have to check to see if this matter relates to a previously handled intake, right? From our perspective, whenever we have an intake that we've handled, talked to the member about and handled, and they call us back later about the same matter, we like to, what we refer to as, reopen that same file, because then the lawyer who was talking to the member the second time around knows all of the facts, understands the advice that was given, understands the situation and the history of what was going on. You would expect that, right? If you've called us before and talked to us about this, I think it's going to be your expectation that we know that, and that we've had all of that information available to us, and that you don't have to tell us everything all over again, and we know what advice we've given to you previously. So we do check to see whether there are other intakes opened on that same legal matter. And your app will also tell you if you've had prior requests, but you may not necessarily know that you should be trying to reopen or reactivate an old request. Members may just not understand when that's the appropriate thing to do and when not. So we're going to be checking for that to make sure that we can meet the member's expectation in that regard. We want to check to see if there's any other reason why we are unable to assist the member for a matter. And, people call in on just about everything. And sometimes there are reasons why we can't help them that fall outside of these categories. Now, let's just assume that all of those things are all really good. Then we will assign that intake to an attorney who is best suited to assist the member. So perhaps the member is calling in about a boundary dispute matter or a dispute with their neighbor. And we have lawyers who like to handle real estate related matters and have some experience with that. We'll assign that intake to that lawyer because they're going to be well versed in that area of law and really be ready to assist the member, with that matter. That's really what we want to try to do is connect them with the lawyer that can do the best job. There are things that prevent the ideal mobile app experience, right? And we've all sort of felt like this lady has felt in the past, and it's just not a comfortable situation to be in. And we don't want anybody to have this experience. So this is really where we're looking for your help. We want you to understand these things so that you can talk to the associates, your colleagues, talk to your members to say, let me show you, give you a couple tips about how to use this app. It'll make it go a lot better for you, a lot easier for you to meet your expectations. So the first thing that we are encountering, this is really big, is that the intake information in the app is not filled out completely or correctly. And right now, our experience is that about 50% of the intakes that are sent to us via the app have insufficient information for us to assign that matter to a lawyer right off the bat, right? Which is not what we want. So we're kind of missing the target there about 50% of the time. And I would say that our number one area where we don't get enough information is knowing who the opposing party is. And we get it, right? Because although the app gives you some guidelines on what to put in there, sometimes it's not intuitive for members. And so ideally what we would have when we do this opposing party, because we need the opposing party information in order to do that conflict of interest check, right? We need to know who the opposing party is so that we can check our records and see whether we've ever advised them, see if they're a client of ours, for whatever reason that we can't assist the member. We can only do that if we have that person's actual name. So some folks might fill that opposing party field out and say, my neighbor, or my friend, or my employer, or my cousin, right? None of those things help us figure out who the opposing party is. And so that's going to generate a call or a text or an email from somebody on my staff to say, hey, we need to know this information, right? Perhaps the member just fills that field out and says, I don't know. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes there is no opposing party. We get that. It's just maybe a general question, but we do need to know the opposing party information. Sometimes they give us a name, but it's partial, or it's misspelled. Fred, well, that doesn't help, right? Or it's a misspelled kind of a name. We really do need to have that information. Sometimes the name is insufficient for us to identify the person for purposes of conflicts of interest. So when somebody writes Robert Smith as the opposing party, well, I think Robert Smith is the most common name in the United States. And we probably have 100 Robert Smiths in our database. So, the app invites the member to provide us with information about the opposing party beyond their name. They can give us their address, their phone number, their email address, all of those things. They all help us identify who this opposing party is and do that conflict of interest check. And, we might need all of that information if we are going to be writing a letter to that opposing party or sending that opposing party an email. So the member getting that information to us up front can really facilitate getting the services to them as quickly as possible so that we don't have to ask them for the opposing party's address or their email address or phone number later on down the road. And then we have a chance of messing it up. We transpose the numbers. I mean, those kinds of things happen. So getting as much of that information right up front is really, really important for getting us the optimal customer experience. Other problems that lead to the less than best experience is not paying attention to what the app tells them about the process. So as Rebecca's presentation really, I think, displayed very, very well, there are explanations available to the member all along the way about areas of law, what they mean, and little explanations in there. It's really important that the members pay attention to those little things. They're in there for a reason, right? It really helps the member and guides them to get us the information that we need in order to service them best. Now, you have two choices. Members have two choices about asking for a callback. They can either select a button that says ASAP, or they can select a button that allows them to select a callback window of time on some future date. I want to provide a bit of explanation about the ASAP callback choice. The app tells the member, whenever they select that it means that they're going to hear from the attorney or the provider law firm within 4 business hours. Okay, it says that right in the app. But I think we all know that some folks don't pay attention to those things or don't read those things. And so really, it only works, right? That ASAP only works if we have all the information that we need in order to have a lawyer call them back within 4 hours. And so right off the bat, if they've not provided us with that opposing party information that we need, right, the callback that they're going to get is going to be from an administrative person in my office asking for that information. And that may end up pushing that callback from a lawyer beyond that 4-hour period of time. And maybe somebody would be upset about that, right? So just a little bit of word of explanation about how that happened. Realistically, when somebody says ASAP, I bet you if I polled what ASAP means, everybody on this call, you would probably have about 10 different answers to that, right? Some might think ASAP is in 10 minutes. Some might say ASAP is by the end of the day. Some might say ASAP is in 2 hours. I mean, people kind of define ASAP in lots of different ways. And so I'm just suggesting to you, not to not use ASAP, but to just understand that your customers may disregard the little bubble that comes up and says, within 4 business hours, and they may be expecting to call back according to what they define as ASAP. So that's just a little word to the wise.
Mike, if I may,
Please jump in anywhere.
Okay, if your member does in fact have an urgent matter or a matter that is ASAP and they need to speak with an attorney immediately, the best thing to do is to still call into our office. That way we can connect them with an attorney. If there's, a police officer or sheriff at their door and they want to talk to their attorney, those are instances that you want to have your member call us directly, because we'll be able to connect them with an attorney right away versus having to wait.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah, and
agree.
just to supplement that, I assign an attorney to be what I call our on-call attorney. You know, I have a different attorney in the morning and a different attorney in the afternoon. Their specific job is to be available for emergency calls. So I would encourage you right now to, you know, with the app, you know, we're trying to process them as quickly as possible and clear conflicts and stuff like that. But I would encourage you, if you have a member who has a very urgent matter, call the office so we can get them connected as soon as possible, so that attorney can get back to them within minutes, as opposed to waiting for that business hour callback time.
Right. You know, we can't speak for all provider firms, but I can safely say that I believe that most providers would tell you that if your customer has an urgent, really truly urgent matter, that if they can either use the emergency assistance line or they should call their provider firms to be connected with somebody as quickly as possible. So other things that prevent the best experience is the area of law is not defined. You saw Rebecca go through that example, and you've got lots of different areas of law. You know, we really ideally would have the members pick the area of law that matches their situation. And that might be a little difficult for them to do. But, you know, we need it because, you know, our lawyers, some of them focus on different areas of law. And so that really helps us match, right, the customer request with the lawyer who is best suited to help them with their matter. And so we're seeing that we get a lot of folks who just pick general law or I don't know, right? And I'm saying that's a missed opportunity by the member to get connected with the lawyer that can help them the best. We certainly have lawyers that will field questions from everywhere, right? But, you know, if they want to be able to match at the first instance with somebody who really has a lot of experience in whatever the issue is that they're calling about, they really need to fill that area of law, define it in some way.
And if I can add, Mike.
Yeah, please.
If I can add, you know, I assign the lawyers the best fit, you know, intakes. So I have a group of family law lawyers who do divorces and child custody and things of that nature. So if I see a family law intake, I already have a group of lawyers in mind that I can assign an intake to. When I'm going through the general laws, I automatically have to go into the intake, read the notes. It just takes a little bit of an extra time on my part to try and sort through what the area is, identify it, get it relabeled, and get it off. So ideally, you know, not everybody knows, you know, what area of law. Sometimes it's hard to tell. You know, no one's, you know, submitting these are lawyers, but if they have an idea, it's a divorce, select family law, I can get you assigned as quickly as possible to one of my family law attorneys.
Right. You can imagine how difficult Belinda's job is when she looks at mobile app intakes that say it's general law and they don't have any description of the legal matter. Or it says, I have a claim or I have a question. You know, well, then that's just a real guessing game, right? And it's going to be kind of rolling the dice on who to assign those to. And it just misses the opportunity to get it to the right person. So another reason that can get us derailed here are document problems. So documents that are incomplete, unreadable, too lengthy, right? And I have another thing that I want to direct your attention to. So if a member sends us documents with the request of service, typically, we tell folks that whenever they send us documents, we have 3 business days to review those documents and get back to the member to talk to them about the documents. That's the service standard that we've really worked with for a long, long time. If a member sends us documents in their app request and says, I want called back in 4 hours, they very well may expect that the lawyer has reviewed those documents and is going to call them back within the 4 hours to talk to them about whatever's in those documents. And that just may not happen, right? The lawyers may not have enough time to review the documents. If you're like me, unless it's a real short document, you know, they'll probably look at it if it's just 1 or 2 pages. But if it's a 10-page document, you know, I kind of would like to know exactly what the member's question is so that I can focus my attention on, you know, a particular area of the agreement. And oftentimes, my clients do have a particular question about a contract that they're doing. They don't always just send it in to say, take a look at the whole thing and let me know what you think. Sometimes that's that way too. But if it's a longer document, the lawyer may not have had an opportunity to review the document by the time they call that member back within 4 hours. So we may even reach out to the member and say, if you'd like the lawyer to have looked at your documents before they call you, would you consider, can we offer you a different callback time that gives us a little bit more time to do that kind of a thing? But that's a sort of a mismatch of an expectation that your members might have that we can't really meet whenever they do send us documents.
And again, if it's an emergency, even if your, client comes to you and says that they've submitted this through the app or whatever, but it's something that maybe they have only 3 business days to cancel a transaction. It's a consumer law type of thing. So there's a deadline in play. Please call us. I would rather get this directed to one of my attorneys who can address it more quickly, than putting your member on the screen for the 4 business hours and then finding out that the attorney I assigned is going to need an additional day or 2 to look at the documents. I have attorneys I can assign things to quickly throughout the course of a day if it's an emergency situation. So please call if it's that situation.
So we now turn to incorrect uses of the app, and Belinda and Noemi have already talked about the last bullet point here, which is urgent matters or matters with impending deadlines, right? Probably the best way to deal with those is to call us and not use the app for those. So sometimes we have folks who send us an app intake, and really what they're doing is asking about the status of something that we're already handling for them, right? Have you reviewed my document yet? Have you sent the letter out yet? Have you heard a response to the letter that you sent out for me 2 weeks ago or a month ago, kind of a thing? That's not really a correct reason to open the intake. Typically, you're going to receive a communication from your provider law firm by a call or by email or by a text, and you might consider using those means of communication to ask about the status of something like that. Some folks submit multiple app requests at the same time for the same matter. And so sometimes a member will send us 5 different app requests because the story that they want to tell us in the notes is too long to go into one request. And so maybe they send us 3 or 4, or they send us 3 or 4 because they have different documents to attach, but they're all separate documents relating to the same legal matter, something like that. We have gotten multiple app requests at the same time or right one after the other from the same member on basically what the same thing is. We end up consolidating those all into one, but all we need is one, right? One per subject matter.
I think our record is 35.
35. We got
Right,
35 from a member on one matter.
No, it was
Yeah.
47.
47?
Yes.
Okay. So sending us documents. So you may have sent us a request for services using the app, and the attorney said, well, I need to see whatever that document is that you're referring to. Would you please send it to us? And we'll tell you how to do that. But sometime later, you send us the document, and what you do is just open a new request to attach the document and send us to it, right? Now, you should be able to do that with a prior request. I'm not exactly sure how that process goes. Maybe Rebecca can tell us at some point along the way here, but we wouldn't want you to open a new request for a matter that we're already handling for you if all you're doing is using it to send us a document. So we will give you instructions. We always give members instructions on how to send us documents, and those are probably the best ways to do it, to get it to the lawyer as quickly as possible.
Mike, if I may.
Yeah.
With Pennsylvania members, our members are able to text us, so they can text us directly if they don't want to call in, or if they're at work and they can't call in. They can text us and say, check on the status of their intake. They can text us photos, they can text us documents, anything that they want to do by, like, if you would call in, they can text us. We are constantly monitoring our texting system. So we have that available to the members that like the mobile app and prefer texting or can't talk during the day. That happens a lot. And we will respond back to them with a text message. And our attorneys do text. They won't text legal advice, but we can schedule appointments. We can do everything that we can do by picking up the phone and calling. We can do that by text.
Right. And then another incorrect use of the app is to open a new request to give us additional information about existing matter, right? That's not really the ideal usage of the app, to open a new matter to give us information about something that we're already talking about. So future app features, I think we're already here on some of these, right? It already does list status changes. So if you send us a request for services, whenever we're doing work on your request for service, we will change the status, these little indicator buttons that are a way to tell you what we're doing, right, with your matter. And those status changes that we make to your intake also appear to you whenever you're looking at your app, right? So you'll be able to sort of follow along. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Also, our system will send an automatic email to our members whenever we change a status of their intake.
Right. So you're going to get it a couple of different ways. There are already a list of prior requests for services in your app. There's a tab at the bottom of your app that will give you the requests for services, active ones and ones that have already been what we refer to as closed or completed.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca, are they able to reopen prior requests to renew them? Is that something that it does yet?
Not currently, no, or the secure file transfer, but you mentioned that we don't want members opening a new request in order to upload an additional document. But this will be a future feature of the app, is where they can upload those documents to the intake directly that is open, so that it gets to the right place, and there'll be sort of like notifications on the partner side to inform you that that document has come in, that kind of thing. But those will be future features of the app. We'll continue to add on to features around basically the member managing their request. And so you'll see those little by little, but we've got to make sure that it works for both sides. So, that's why it's in small increments there.
Yep. It's a learning process for all of us. And we're going to end. Just like anything, as we practice using it, we'll get better at using it, and we'll know, okay, this is what we should do. So we'll answer some questions for you here, but before I do that, shameless promo, we have some upcoming webinars. You can search for us on Eventbrite. Next week, we're talking about business insurance basics. It's great to connect your business customers with. We will be having a couple of estate planning webinars coming up. The next one's in October. You'll see the other ones on Eventbrite. If you have a teen driver at home, if you have any customers that have teen drivers at home, we are going to have a webinar by a driving instructor who's been doing this, and his staff, I think 350 years combined amount of experience, who they teach driving lessons, and especially teens. Jim is really, really great. My daughters have taken lessons from him. He's a wonderful guy, super experienced. It won't be just us telling you these things. This is going to come from a veteran-owned, very, very experienced, government-certified driving school instructor. So it'd be a great thing for you to watch with your teen, along the way. So great customer service opportunity for you to pass that along to your customers. And our next LegalShield Associate Workout is on October 20th. We're going to be giving a third quarter update of what we've been doing. And we will be talking about an overview of the changes to the family plan, which will become effective on October 1st. So with that, I'm going to stop my